Hey everybody, my name is Matt and I'm training for the 2018 Boston Marathon. I decided a while ago that I was going to create a few short videos to talk about how my training's going, maybe share a few tips along the way for others who might be doing their own training, or maybe someday they just aspire to run a marathon. But before I jump in, I figured I'd spend a couple of minutes establishing my credibility as a runner and someone who might be interesting to listen to. So I was a recreational runner for quite a little while before I got serious with training back in 2016 and actually started to see some results. Perhaps most notably, I won what some people have referred to as the Triple Crown of Southern Maine Racing, winning the Elliott Festival 5K, Kittery Fire Department 5K, and Kittery Block Party 5K consecutively. You can look that up. I'm the only person who's ever done that. So some of you might be thinking, well, that's great, you ran some fast 5Ks, but what about longer distances like marathon? Well, I threw some recent marathon results together and wanted to mention I did run my debut at Sugarloaf, 2 hours and something, and then did that again at Hartford. And got a little graphic up there about Eliud Kipchoge, who's one of the best marathoners in the world. He's in that same range, 2 hours and something at London, 2 hours and something at Berlin, and Nike even sponsored a program around there where they tried to get him under a 2-hour marathon. He wasn't quite there yet, so both of us are working on that goal. Okay, and last but not least, I want to talk just a little bit about my experience in food science and human nutrition. So I am married to a food scientist and non-licensed nutritionist, so I've listened to detailed information and facts about diet and nutrition, retained probably 7 to 9% of that, got a solid understanding of the food groups in the USDA pyramid. I understand words like antioxidant, toxin, and vitamin, and I can typically identify sources of carbohydrate, fat, and protein, and I have 40 plus years of food and fluid consumption. So it's an area I'm pretty comfortable with. Okay, so I'm going to go through my favorite pre-run and post-run energy drink that I've found to work best for me over the years. I have certainly tried all of the range of products available commercially, drinks like UCAN, Tailwind, certainly Gatorade, and those kinds of sports drinks, and they all work reasonably well and they serve a purpose, but I've just found that like nutritionally none of them really meet my needs for pre-run fueling, and then after run kind of like refueling essentially and getting your calories back in kind of a healthy and sustainable way. So I put together this recipe, I think it was back in 2016 when I was leading up to my first marathon at Sugarloaf, and it worked really well for me there, and I've gone back to that. So I'll go through the recipe a little bit, and hopefully some of you will find this to be helpful too. So the first thing that I use is basically start with a base of almond milk. I'd love to be able to get like locally sourced almond milk, but I live in Maine. Almonds don't really grow here. So I've gone with the big company here, Blue Diamond Almonds, and does have 60 calories per serving. But there's still some nutrition in here for sure. I think it's got 8 grams of sugar, but there is some vitamin E and things like that in there, and it's just a good base for the drink. I find that dairy doesn't mix as well for me, so I start off with a little more than I guess about 8 to 10 ounces of that. So I'll go ahead and add that in. That should be good. And then kale, so I should point out it's kind of important to have a good blender for this because kale in particular is a little bit tough to chop up. It won't really go in your standard blender. So what I do with this is kind of just take a few big stalks, and this is local kale, grown in Maine, also bought locally down at Golden Harvest. So get a couple good bunches of that. I like to take some of the stalks off. And then I try to you can kind of see the way I've got this in the blender. So, it's a little hard to be exact with kale unless you're weighing it out, but probably 16 to 18 ounces of kale. And then I've got some other ingredients here. Maine blueberries. These ones were grown and picked in Maine probably very recently here. And with this, I like to be a little more exact with this, and I've got this quarter cup measure here, so try to get about a quarter cup in there. And blueberries just have a ton of antioxidants and vitamin C. They're really good for you, and I should mention kale obviously is a superfood. That. It's got a lot of folic acid, vitamins, potassium, magnesium, that such. So we'll dump the blueberries in there, and that's a really good start. Now, this can be a little bit tough to find. This is dried cherries. These are from Maine cherries and dried in Maine and purchased locally here in Maine, so that's good. Cherries have a tremendous amount of antioxidants, so like when you're in a training cycle, tend to have a lot of inflamed muscles, so having something like this is super helpful. And again, I would go to my 1/4 cup there, and just dump those right in there. And that's good. And then I like to, for potassium, get a banana in there. In full transparency, I wasn't able to get Maine bananas because they don't grow very well in Maine. So just be honest here. I mean, that's a New Hampshire banana, but it works. So I'm going to use that. A lot of potassium in bananas, very good for any kind of recovery drink. So just kind of break that up and put that in there. And the last thing I do is, because your body uses glycogen and sugar when you go through runs. There's no two ways about it. You don't want to overload the sugar and have your blood sugar spike. But blending some sugar in, like with these good ingredients, it tends to stabilize it, and you'll get like a slow release of any sugars that are in the drink, like during your run, and then afterwards too. So, I use like Dunkin' Donuts, just a few of them. I mean, it's not critical the type that you use, but this is definitely what I would recommend, and you can try to like mix it up. I would start with this, but if you find different varieties work for you, that's fine. So, but this is again a maple glazed that goes in there. And one like chocolate with sprinkles, and there's a lot of antioxidants in the chocolate, and there's phytonutrients in these sprinkles here, and that goes in. And then one of these, this is a vanilla cream. So the powder has a lot of vitamin K and J, and riboflavin and F7, so that's good too for a run. So I got 3 left. You could go more, but I think you're going to start having the consistency a little bit wrong. So we'll set those to the side. And then for inspiration, I mean, you notice I'm wearing my Boston Marathon shirt. I did run that last year, and of course I'm running it again. So I kind of like to put this on when I'm, trying to get in the mindset of the right fueling or the right recovery. And then, I've got my favorite cup of choice, and you can see I got this for winning one of those 5Ks in the Triple Crown series there. So that's nice. But you can probably use, whatever glassware works for you. I mean, if you haven't won a race and don't have a mug like that, a regular juice glass could potentially work for you. So let's get this thing blended up. So you're going to want that to go for probably like 45 to 60 seconds because it works hard on the kale and some of those donuts too. You want a really good mix when you're doing this. And I like to downshift to low for a minute. 10 to 12 seconds. Back up to high. And then off again. And that looks about right. It's going to be like a little bit thick, but it's the right consistency. Again, it's important to have this right so that all of the nutrients and even the sugars in there are delivered sort of at the right pace into your body. Little things like that. I mean, again, you can play around with the recipe and like certain things in there, but I would recommend stick with the original to start and then sort of just see like how that works for you over time. And then you can maybe tweak it. And, I'm pretty open-minded. Like if you find something that works better for you, let me know. Send me an email or something like that, and I would be happy to try that out on my end. It's not a perfect recipe. I mean, it has worked really well for me. I talked a little bit about some of my results before, and I've done really well, and I attribute the majority of my success to this beverage. So cheers. I think this is good, and happy training, and here's to me probably winning the 2018 Boston Marathon. That's really good. That's nice. Like the maple comes through pretty good. All right. Well, stay tuned for like more tips. I'll probably do things in the future, not just nutrition, but also talk a little bit about racing and training and stuff. I mean, I have a lot of really good ideas, and I want to give back at this point and like share with other people so they can learn from what's worked for me. And I know like no two people are exactly the same, but I can pretty much guarantee something like this is going to work for everybody. So thanks. I hope that was helpful.